Hello, once again to this episode, Managed Sellers. Today, we're going to discuss about negativity and how it affects our personal development. Mental health is not the only thing that the negative impacted by pessimism. Truth be told, medical researchers have actually said or have discovered that individuals who have high level of negativity are more likely to suffer from degenerative brain diseases, cardiovascular problems, digestive issues, and recover more slowly on any illness than the people who have a positive mindset. Spending time with the pessimistic people can be one of the quickest way to bring a positive attitude crashing down. Their pessimistic outlook, the negative attitude can affect our motivation and altering things, how you feel about ourselves. Instead of being positive, we feel that we're failures, there's nothing we're doing, and at the end of the day, you find that life is not worth living. However, we bear in mind that when we give people or person who is negative by his nature too much power in our life, we're actually letting them to control our emotions, and that can be so detrimental in our personal development. Now, what are the causes of negative thinking? What is it that actually causes us to have that? Um, Maybe for a start, sometimes it's actually the phobias that we have, fear of being disrespected by the people, fear of not being loved by other people, or just that a bad thing will happen to me. Those are some of the issues that will have actually developed a negative attitude in us. However, researchers have actually discovered quite a number of things that will affect us or would make us develop that negative attitude. One other thing, the first thing is overanalyzing and indecisiveness. When we are filled with crucial choices, it is prudent to exercise patience, give a careful thought of all one's available alternatives. In any situation, there will always be alternatives. But for us to discover those alternatives, we need to be very patient and have a careful thought of whatever we are doing. On the other hand, evaluating the available solution the options might quickly turn into obsession. You may have several alternatives and all of them look good. Now, instead of us making a decision, we become so obsessed with them. And at the end of the day, we are undecided which one to follow. Then we consider ourselves that we are not capable of doing this one. Because once you don't make a quick decision, then other negative attitudes comes in, because now you may start consulting people and people say, no, this one felt this and that one felt that. Then you also group yourself into the same uh, uh, possibility or the same issue that you're actually uh, saying that, okay, in that situation, then I'm not able to make a decision. Therefore, it's better that sometimes we set ourselves deadlines for a decision that in this situation, I have to make a decision, let's say in an hour's time. Then you stick to that. You also have to give yourself enough time to research and think about it. And once time is up, just make a decision and stick to that. Whether you are continuing with that decision or you're actually discarding the whole thing, just make that decision of yourself. Then the other thing is the past events. It is beneficial to spend more time contemplating your past experiences and how they will continue to play your role in shaping your present life. This is a natural mental habit. However, it can become unhealthy when those ideas become negative and you spend an unhealthy amount of time focusing on them. Someone wronged you some time back. It's gone. It happened. It happened. That's what under the bridge. The best is, what lessons did you learn from there, and move on. But if you keep on reflect on them, and each time you see that person that actually happened, if you see that person, you will remember those things. Then surely you are not assisting yourself. Then the other sign of negativity is outward direct anger. Someone longed you past sometime at a certain point, and you feel that anyone who is very close to that person is also an enemy. No, it's only the other person that is only an enemy to you. You know, in life, we don't have to inherit enemies. My enemies should not be the enemies of my children. My enemies should not happen to be the enemies of my father. Or my father's enemies should not be my enemies. Otherwise, I'm inheriting enemies, which the cause I don't know. So, because of that, you find that you have directed anger to people who have not even wronged you. So, in such circumstances, you find that our lives will always and always be in a negative attitude. Each time we see those people, unfortunately, these people can be in numbers. Find that at one out of every 3 people, you meet them. So who is going to be affected? Surely it's you. Huh? And that develops an overwhelming rage of anger towards someone else, which may not be healthy to you. Now, how do you actually remove that? You need to understand the situation. What happened for them to be enemies? Or why is it that when I see this person, I'm always angry? Understand the situation. And once you understand the situation, it will be able to improve your understanding and help see others in a fresh light and be less critical to them. Because the moment we start to be critical of everyone else, surely we will miss opportunities in life. Then the other thing that actually causes negativity in our life is the fear of the future. We cannot see the future. It is natural. And therefore, we'll be very anxious about it. This can cause certain individuals to develop a negative pattern of continuing presumes that the worst is yet to come. There are people who have already made misfortune after misfortune after misfortune after misfortune. And each time they look at the situation, to them, the only thing they see is a misfortune, not an opportunity. And they don't see the future in them. And they develop that emotional fear. However, we should note that this fear of the future is a waste of emotional energy, but also an unrealistic expectation because you're not yet there. That's why the past is there for us to learn from, the present to manage, and the future to plan. And you plan based on the assumptions that you have. And sure, one of the assumptions ought to be a negative attitude. It should always be a positive one. Of course, my colleagues in accounts will say, we always work on worst scenario situations. Yes, that's in finances. But in a day-to-day life, we should always work on a positive attitude and not on worst-case scenarios. You can therefore also lessen the impact of pessimism. Think about your future, first by acknowledging that we only have a limited amount of power over it. We have to accept that we have very limited power for our future. And then focus on the aspects that are under your direct influence. Let's take, for example, of politicians. They'll promise a lot. We'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do that, but they're actually looking in the future. Now, they go in the future, they meet a pandemic. Should they actually be negative? Should they fear of promising people the next election time? No. Because they have acknowledged that we have a problem. Everyone has acknowledged that there's a problem. Then we need just to move forward. Then the other thing that actually comes to mind when you look at that is self-criticism. That's another contributor of negative thinking, is engaging in excessive self-criticism. Self-criticism, when carried out in extremes, can cause you to have less confidence in your ability to face the problems that life throws at you. This is true despite the fact that it is necessary to be honest with ourselves, but our strength, or honest about our strength and our limitations. Everyone has what is, you can only do so much. And you cannot do what other people have done because that's them. It's not you. So we should acknowledge our own limitations. We should acknowledge our own strength. How far can I go with this? Otherwise, if you overstretch yourself and you fail, then you start criticizing yourself that I'm a failure. So instead of focusing solely on the bad aspect of your persona and the things that you have accomplished, make it a point to cultivate a more balanced perspective. Lack of self-confidence. Being too critical of oneself is direct association with what we just discussed. It's just a direct result of that. Because we are not actually, we have criticized ourselves top down, left, right. Surely, at the end of the day, it means we have no confidence in ourselves. So self-criticism will result in lacking self-confidence, which is key to personal development. Then we should stop jumping to conclusions. Jumping to conclusions about what other people believe about you is an additional negative. An example is sometimes a child fails and he knows when I go home, I'll be beaten. But that's the jump to conclusion. But sometimes you just make conclusions which are not even real. You just assume that the likely result is a decision of what you truly think or what they truly think about you, which may be more complex and insightful and aware at this point. If you doubt anything about it, please ask a question rather than jumping to a conclusion. Because once you start jumping to conclusions, then everyone else will run away from you. And if you have an honest remark, we should be able to lessen the anxiety that you have. Then another thing is self-blame, which is more or less like self-criticism. However, sometimes as we are accepting the responsibility on our choices in relation to our circumstances, we must take control of them. However, placing undue guilt on ourselves for occasions that over which we have no control can have a detrimental effect on our life. There are certain things is out of your control. You can't blame the devaluation of a currency, a pandemic. You cannot blame yourself for that. Take responsibility on something that actually you have actually caused, yes, and learn lessons from it. Let's not take the weight of the entire globe to rest on our shoulders. Rather, it is the weight of very small spaces in which we live in and work and love. Those are things that we need to take control. But you cannot take the Ukraine-Russia war blame on yourself. It doesn't make sense. It's not your problem. It's their problem. Labeling. That's the last thing we need to look at. The causes of negative attitudes. A simple judgment we make about ourselves, which almost always have a negative impact, is referred to as a label. That's what you are known as, a brand. That's your brand. You are creating a negative mind. And I'm not sure whether people would like to have that brand as a negative issue or a negative brand. After going through a painful break up. A person could find themselves, I can't go into partnerships again. It's very common with either young people or people that have come out of uh, a, a, a divorce. They will actually call themselves that I'm not worthy it. So you create yourself a label that according to your to your thinking, according to your capacity, you're not worth to have a partner. But that sentiment can be used to rationalize not to do something. The issue is, if you're coming from a broken family, what were the causes? If you're once divorced, what were the causes? Were you part and parcel of the process? What did you contribute towards it? And remap way forward. But if you just say, I'm divorced, I can't go into marriages again because I'm a failure or I cannot sustain a relationship, then you are creating your own brand, which is a negative brand. Unfortunately, you'll be sharing that brand to other people. And even the prospective people or the prospective husbands or wives will like, let's say, no, you can't do that because he or she has all the problems that she cannot sustain their relationship. Another part of labeling yourself is reminding yourself of things that you accomplish well in order to build confidence. So you need to remind yourself that I did this well. And because I did this well, I've been able to do this. So let's have a positive brand or let's have a positive label rather than a negative label. As we conclude this episode, which is part one of negative thoughts and how they affect our um, personal development, we should bear in mind that any thoughts that we have, that we carry each and every second, each and every minute, have the potential to influence every aspect of our life, from the way we feel, the kind of decision we make, relationship we have with other people. Even our immune system within our body is also controlled by the same. In fact, our medical personnel who has actually told that negative thoughts or negative attitudes weaken our immune levels because of the stress we carry, the elevated levels of anxiety brought by the negative thinking. In fact, chronic stress, which is a lot of negative thinking or negative attitudes, has been related to a number of different diseases, including hypertension, infections, digestive problems, etc., etc. Therefore, the only thing we need to do under any circumstances is to avoid depression, which is a result of a negative thinking. And depression, according to the medical person, say, is a mental health illness that is characterized by persistent and seemingly unavoidable emotions of melancholy, helplessness, the fatalistic perspective of one's future opportunities. And the physical symptoms are lack of energy, lower appetite, longer than normal sleeping periods, loss of focus, and in some cases, acts of self-harm, thinking of suicides. Those are the results of negative thinking, and it ends up in depression. And other depression is chronic depression. Therefore, it is better to establish a link between our own depression that we are actually thinking and what we are going through, or what we have gone through as a people. Once that is done, we'll find ourselves that we need to take care of our negative thinking, which at the end of the day will affect our personal development. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending this. See you in the next episode.